Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please rise and the clerk will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion and a second that the agenda of January 23, 2018 be approved as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Approval of consent agenda, that the board approve the following consent agenda. Approval of minutes of January 9, 2018 as submitted. Acceptance of recommendations from the Committee on Special Education. Acceptance of recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education. Acceptance of recommendations from the Superintendent for personnel changes. Request to approve the recommended bidders. Medco Supply, Henry Schein, Inc., Everything Medical, More Medical, School Health, Dash Medical Gloves, Interborough Packing Corp., and Pyramid School Products per the BOCES cooperative bid for health and safety supplies, RFB 1819-17, for the period 2/1/18 to 1/31/19. Request to approve the recommended bidders, Medco Supply, Medco Supply, School Health, More Medical, and Henry Schein, Inc., per the BOCES cooperative bid for medical trainer supplies, RFB 1820-17, for the period 2/1/18 to 1/31/19. Request to approve the recommended bidders, Dobmeyer Janitor Supply, Economy Paper, Central Poly, Regional Distributors, All-American Poly, WB Mason, Core Distributors, Gabriel First, Pyramid School Products, WW Granger, Unipack, Quill, CCP Company, and School Specialty per the BOCES cooperative bid for custodial supplies, RFB-1821-17, for the period 2/1/18 to 1/31/19. Request to approve the recommended bidders, WB Mason, Toshiba Business Solutions, U.S. Globe Service Corp., Ready Data Inc., and Quill Corp. per the BOCES cooperative bid for printer supplies, RFB-1822-17, for the period 2/1/18 to 1/31/19. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. The attached is the Treasurer's report for the month ending November 30th, 2017. May I have a motion and a second that the Treasurer's report, including the cash report, General Fund cash report, the General Fund revenue status report, General Fund budget status report, School lunch fund cash report, and School lunch fund revenue and expense budget report for the month ending November 30th, 2017 be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right, we have a special report.
Yep. So we'll ask Nicole Whitehead, our Director of STEAM, to come on up, and you've got the clicker. And Nicole's going to take some time to talk about our keyboarding and digital citizenship. And we'll just note that thank you to Nicole for flying solo. Kristen Williamson is out ill, so Nicole stepped up, and we really do appreciate that.
Sure, and I am going to have Jim, we will limit him to one slide, but he will participate. Okay. Okay, so thank you for having me here tonight. I'm really excited to be talking about some new initiatives that we've embarked on this school year. Okay. So as we know, technology continues to evolve and change, and so must our curriculum to meet those needs. So this year we made enhancements to our elementary and middle school curriculum to now incorporate digital citizenship and keyboarding skills. We all know that these are key elements of 21st century skills, and they will help prepare our students for college, career, and success in a global community. So in today's digital world, so many tasks involve technology. And through the teaching of digital citizenship skills, students will be taught how to communicate and collaborate safely and responsibly in a digital world. This summer, library media specialists, with the help of Director of Humanities Kristen Williamson, worked to develop a guaranteed and viable elementary digital citizenship curriculum. This will ensure that all of our elementary students across all 4 buildings are receiving similar instruction in digital citizenship. It's a hard word to say, citizenship. So what are they learning? So we broke it down, they broke it down into grades kindergarten through 1, really focusing on how to be safe. The safety is the main skill that we want them to walk away with there. And then as they progress through grades 2 through 5, they'll start talking about more advanced online communications and things such as cyberbullying and how to be safe and protect yourself when communicating online. So here's an example of a learning target that the librarians created that they use with students, and these are students in kindergarten and 1st grade. And you can see here they're making a nice connection between the safety of their everyday world and the digital world. Here's a cute student. He's receiving his, looks like a bookmark there. Mm-hmm. I am a digital citizen. With all those learning targets, those I can statements are listed on his bookmark. And that's really does tell you. The other day I showed a video of to my own students, or my own children, and they looked at the computer from the 90s and they're like, what is that? You know, and it does speak to how much technology continues to change and how we need to change with it. Other things that they talk about are how computers have evolved, the impact of too much screen time, which as a mother I know I can see that in my own children, information you should and should not be sharing online, and as I referenced earlier, cyberbullying. Librarians formatively assess students' understanding of these various skills that are taught in a unit, and here you can see that they are being assessed through an online module. And then here's a more formalized assessment that was given in kindergarten, where students are asked to identify people in their community and who it would be appropriate to talk to online and who it would not. So you can see, again, they're making a really nice connection to the outside world and the online world, which can often be very abstract for younger students and adults sometimes too. Mm-hmm. This changes as we get into middle school. I think we all would agree that socialization and communication skills definitely shift even more heavily into the digital realm as our students progress through the middle school. So it's more important than ever to continue teaching that skill of digital citizenship. What I'd like to point out here is, while at the elementary level, we're mostly focusing in on the literacy and security and etiquette, you can see that as they get older, additional more advanced topics are brought in, such as commerce, like how to be a safe or smart online purchaser, law, rights and responsibilities. And then we continue to also talk to them about the impact that their digital footprint will make now and as they get older. Right now, these skills are taught directly in our 6th and 7th grade computer classes, but they are also reinforced during our personal development class in 6th grade, health in 7th grade, and home and careers, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We do realize, though, however, that not all students are able to take all of those classes due to scheduling restraints. So when making scheduling changes for students, the middle schools make sure that they do not eliminate the same special from every student every year, so that the content will be taught to those students as they go through 6, 7, and 8. And as our teachers in our core subjects start using Office 365 and Microsoft Teams with their students, they're now able to really naturally embed those skills into the core classes, which is very important for all of our students. So keyboarding is really the penmanship of the computer age. It's lifelong skills. And here you can see some pictures of our students in our elementary schools engaging in the keyboarding instruction. So right now, these students, they receive 30 minutes of keyboard instruction once every 6 color day as a special for 13 continuous weeks. We are about to conclude our 13 weeks for students 3 through 5, and then we will transition, and students kindergarten through 2nd grade will then begin the same process. You can see the goals here are really to reinforce the proper habits, to increase automaticity and fluency, which isn't always speed, and to provide them with preparation for our new online assessments. That's the reason why we put 3 through 5 first rather than K through 2, was that we know our 3 through 5 students, as well as 6 through 8, will be taking their math assessment online in May. So we wanted to get them started right at the beginning of the school year. And what's nice is, although their instruction and their special will end in February after those 13 weeks, all students will still have access to the modules, the personalized, individualized modules. And teachers are being encouraged to set up opportunities as centers, or to encourage students to do it at home, so that those keyboarding skills continue to be practiced and reinforced. So at grades K through 2, we're really focusing in on those fundamental pre-keyboarding skills, dragging and dropping, building familiarity with the keys, reinforcing the proper hand positioning and posture. At K through 2, we're using a program called Keyboarding Without Tears. This was piloted across all 4 elementary schools last year. So, and then it was selected. We had a K-5 committee that selected Keyboarding Without Tears for grades K through 2 because it was well received. And it also coincides with our Handwriting Without Tears program. So there's some nice cohesion there. Students they progress through modules, and they have a lot of self-directed, game-based strategies, and students we hope that K through 2 haven't done it yet this year, but based off of last year, they found it to be very, very engaging. One of the benefits of this program is that they also integrate other subject and content area in there without students even really knowing, so that when they're keyboarding things about social studies, science, and that type of thing. So those cross-curricular connections are great. In grades 3 through 5, we really wanted to reduce kind of program fatigue. And so in our eyes, we thought, a student that comes in and does Keyboarding Without Tears, K, 1, 2, how much motivation is there going to be to continue 3, 4, 5 with the same program? So the committee decided to separate it and have a separate program, 3 through 5. And we did feel that Keyboarding Without Tears was more geared towards, while it does span multiple grade levels, we found that it appealed most to the elementary primary students. So we selected Ultra Key for our intermediate elementary students. Very similar in that students progress through tutorials, but what we really liked about this program, what appealed to us, was the ability for students to establish and revise their own personal goals. So they can set their own personal goals for words per minute or accuracy, and then as they progress through skill checks, they can then change that goal later on. And that way, students can always feel successful based off of their goal, and then they can try to build their confidence and then stretch themselves a little bit more.
So the big question often comes up as we look at providing this instruction and these opportunities for our students is where. next to our students, time is probably our most precious commodity throughout the school day. And while we recognize the importance of these experiences for our students, one of the toughest decisions was finding time within the school day within which to do this. And so a credit to Nicole and Kristen and our library media specialists to really come up with a creative way to find the time for this. And where that happens is within the library special. So typically our students at the elementary level would be going to library once a week, where they would receive instruction on research and other literacy skills with the librarian, often maybe do some read alouds and hone in on some reading skills. But where those 13 lessons are coming from is we've taken that out of the library special. And what that creates then is an opportunity for a probably more modern and flexible library experience for our students. So while our students are engaging with handwriting or keyboarding without tears or the Ultra Key programs, that's being monitored and facilitated by a teaching assistant during that library time, with the exception of approximately the last 10 to 15 minutes of that class time, wherein they can still exchange books and check out new books and things like that and talk with the library media specialist if need be. But what we've created is a collaboration menu, a flexible library model where we're really taking advantage of the full skill set of our library media specialists to help our students learn to be researchers and thinkers. So typically in the past, when a classroom teacher had a research project in which they wanted to engage the students, they would let the library media specialist know, and the library media specialist might gather some resources and set them some things up for the students on the computer so that they could come in and easily find some of that information. What we've done is flip that around a little bit. While our library media specialists will continue to do that, instead of the students necessarily coming to the library to have that experience, the library media specialist, thanks to technology and carts that can carry books, can take that information to the classroom. So while some students are engaging in keyboarding activities, the librarian is now free to go co-teach and work with classroom teachers and groups of students on some of those very same literacy skills and digital literacy and research techniques, and help also provide some support with the use of technology as the students are engaging in that model. And so at each grade level and for each month, with the help of Kristen and the librarians, they came up with what they call collaboration menus, and you see an example of that here. So there's some specific topics that we're suggesting could be what we work on in that particular month, so that we cover a range of digital literacy skills throughout the course of every month that we're taking advantage of these opportunities, and they differ and are adjusted accordingly to each student's grade level. And so we've created this more flexible model, and we're tracking this right now. We're looking at, and each librarian and principal has a system in which they're looking at how are the librarians being utilized in this manner and to what degree of effectiveness, so that we can review this come the end of the school year and over the summer and look to see how can we make adjustments moving forward. So we're excited about it because it's really a more modern model of library instruction. It's helping us incorporate the technology. It's helping us get in time for keyboarding instruction with our students, and making sure that we've got guaranteed and valuable curriculum for digital citizenship, which, while many of our teachers were doing it, now we've got a set curriculum that we know is consistent for all of our kids at each grade level. And that goes the same is true for the keyboarding instruction now as well. One more
Does
click.
anybody have any questions?
There's one more slide, I think.
Yeah, it's pictures of
Pictures
some
of the kids.
examples of some collaboration.
sorry,
You've got to
sorry.
click on it. You've got the clicker.
I'm not very digital literate right now. Okay. So here's some examples you can see. We have Nancy Logie here from Indian Landing working with students. And then we have Lisa Edberg from Harris Hill working with another group of students. Up there on the right, I'm particularly excited about that because I think they're working with the Ozobots, which also incorporates coding, which I love and think is really pertinent for any students that are interested in computer science or programming later on. So those are examples of some of that. And
No, there we go.
now
we can
There we go.
all right.
Board members, any questions or comments? Barb?
Nicole, I'm excited about this. Since back in the day, I had to learn how to do, in high school, typing, excuse me, for our students that have disabilities.
Yes.
How are we
It's a great question.
Yes, presenting it to them.
So right now, our students in self-contained are following the same curriculum, the same format as those of their similar age peers. However, those that are in our more supported classrooms at Harris Hill, we found that, so we're undergoing 3 through 5 right now with Ultra Key.
Okay.
And we found that that was a little bit too advanced for some of their dexterity and their ability to key. So what we did do is, and the teachers, kudos to them, it was their idea. Why don't we, for those students, do keyboarding without tiers, start them at the 2nd grade module, and let them advance through that first. So we are doing that right now. We're really just adapting it for them, and then to see how they do. And then we do have one student who does something different because he doesn't have the capability to keyboard. So his teacher does something else with them during that time.
And the middle school component, what?
For the special education
yeah.
students, so if they do not receive computer class, which sometimes that's taken out to make room for another class, such as a lab or resource center, whatever, that's where we really rely on the health and the personal development and the home and careers teachers to continue reinforcing
Okay.
those skills, because you can never, a student can never miss all of the same course throughout those years.
Right.
So while the courses can be reduced, they can't be fully eliminated. So we make sure to get that content in that way, and then again, relying on our core teachers that are using it and modeling it every day when they're saying, all right, students, let's get out our laptops and let's enter in our passwords, and do we share our passwords with other people, and that type of thing. Kind of doing it in a more natural setting that way.
And I just have one more question in terms of information, getting the information about the program to the parents of the disabled students, or children with disabilities. Has that been already started? Is it in the works, or is that just the teachers saying?
I'll have to check on that. As far as I know, the teachers had approached me, and we worked out a solution of getting them that license for the other program, and then they were going to follow up with parents and communicate and make sure that they were on board with that. But I believe that they had already talked to the parents as well before contacting me.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Carol?
Thank you for the presentation. So I was here, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but many superintendents ago, where we actually got rid of those keyboarding classes.
Yes.
And philosophy then, was, oh, well, all the kids have computers at home and they're learning how to type. Of course, it was met with lots of tears and screaming and PTAs, sitting at this table and, people lobbying against getting rid of those classes. So I watch us now having done a full circle. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. I think it's necessary. But at the time, we were also told there's no time in the day for those keyboarding classes.
Right.
So what are the kids missing on to be able to get this back?
So as Mr. Pfeiffer said before, rather than having direct instruction during a protected library time in grades K through 5, once out of every 6 days, for 13 weeks they're doing the keyboarding, but they're still able to still get those library skills through the collaboration that the librarians are now able to do, because their time is freed up during that time. So, for example, a 3rd grade class could go in during their library special time. They now receive keyboarding. So now Nancy or Lisa, they're free to go push into another classroom and collaborate and do really more content embedded research skills right there in the classroom during that time. So, and we still made sure to provide that time at the end for students to get books, check out books, ask if they have any questions. So it's coming out of the library time, but through, I think, great ideas of the librarians, that they were the ones that really came up with this idea of we can really use that time to be effective and co-teach and help our teachers and bring things to them rather than them always having to come to the library. So the students aren't really losing anything, we'd like to say. It's just being creative with scheduling.
Okay, all right. My other question is, how about, kids are texting earlier and earlier, and they all have phones way earlier. My oldest didn't have a phone until God knows when, end of middle school, beginning high school. Now you find elementary
Yes.
students
Yes.
with phones. Is there any problem with, the keyboarding on the phone or the keyboarding, do you find that kids are having trouble there? Or?
We find, and research will indicate that one of the reasons why I advocated so much to have keyboarding back is that the phones have actually hurt our students keyboarding
Oh, yeah?
because they are now becoming so used to, I'm doing emotion, I'm sure there's a proper word for it, but not only that, but their spelling, because they're doing everything abbreviated and shortened. So, teachers started seeing thanks, THX, on papers, and that's a reality. So that was another reason to bring keyboarding back, is that as they are becoming so literate with their phones, it's a different skill than keyboarding is. Think about yourself. You're using really different muscles and different finger placement.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question, John? I saw you.
Well, Barb asked it, but I thought of another one.
Okay.
As we get closer to the online or computer-based assessments,
Yeah.
that 4 or 6 weeks, I forgot what you said, I think 6 weeks leading up to the testing period for the third graders.
Yeah.
Has that proven to be enough instruction for them to complete the test online or via the computer? I mean, I know you haven't implemented the online or
Right.
computer-based
I
testing
think that's
yet,
it. We believe so. I think
Yeah.
the other important, while this is the first time we're going through formal keyboarding instruction for our students, remember they have had other experiences with keyboarding and projects in the classroom all along, and we've had other online assessment tools that we've been using, such as iReady. That's a diagnostic that's given to many of our students in ELA and math, up to 3 times a year, depending on their needs. So they've had experience with online assessment already, and that's similar, not exactly like what we're going to see from New York State, but pretty similar. So I think we're pretty confident in the skill set that we're developing with them. And this year will be computer-based testing for math. We're not layering on the ELA assessment yet. So we'll have another whole year of this before they are actually looking at extended responses in terms of essays and things of that nature next year, which will require some pretty significant skill. But our teachers have been doing a great job, I think, of integrating technology prior to this in order to ensure that our kids have had some exposure and experience with keyboarding, whether it's requiring students to type an essay or something like that to work that in. So now we've layered another formal opportunity on there, and we believe they'll be pretty well prepared for this.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Dr. Putnam?
I don't have a question, but just as a kudos to Nicole, the work she did with this, and also just again, you did a very nice job with the appreciation and support of our library media specialist. And I always just like to point that out, is that we actually don't hire librarians. Their title is library media specialist, and this is really why. So especially at the elementary level, I know our library media specialists were hungry for this. They're not just what we sometimes picture of someone who just hands out books. It's really about all the digital citizenship and the coding and the keyboarding and the work that really goes along with it. And it is, as Jim said, it's time. And so a lot of schools moved away from your typical keyboarding class years ago, a certain number of years. And it's cyclical. It definitely is in terms of it coming back. But it really was around that same time that New York State put a big push on ELA and math and the state assessments being rolled out. And I give kudos to Penfield for finding a way to do it without saying to teachers in the classroom, here's one more thing you need to do. And so it took some time and a lot of work from Nicole and really listening to the library media specialists who said, we're ready for this. And I think that's when you really know a program's going to be successful, when the teachers who are involved are the ones who really brought it to the forefront and then we put it together, and Nicole's done a great job with that, as well as Kristen Williamson, who's not here. So I'm sure she's watching at home. So,
I'm sure she is. She's homesick, and she's watching this board meeting.
yeah.
Well,
Make a comment?
yes, Lisa.
It just, I think it was 2 years ago, we were at NISBA, and there was a very large presentation about cyberbullying and digital citizenship and how, and it always stuck with me how children are getting these devices younger and younger, and that one of the things one of the presenters said is that we're giving basically little computers to students and children that don't have the wisdom or judgment to know what to do with it. And I'm super excited that we're starting so young at K1. I mean, all these little kids have tablets at home,
Yeah.
and you know, and I just think that's a great service that we're doing for our students and our community. So.
I'm looking forward to Nicole when she rolls out the adult classes because in my purview of Facebook, I would say that I would hope that our students will lead the charge on how to behave online and behind a screen.
Well, last year, I don't know if anybody had the chance to attend, but Bay Trail brought in a presenter, Scott Finch.
Yep.
And I always remember his message to all students, so students were able to attend, was pause before you post. So that's the one that sticks with me and that I think is important for us to share with students.
Right.
That's great.
And just to piggyback on that, when you think about the opportunity or the pitfalls, however you want to look at it, I mean, it could be great opportunities for the students, and as they get older, to be better examples than what we're living with sometimes today. But also the pitfalls can follow them forever. Mm-hmm. You know, they can make a mistake when they're 10 or 12 or 15 years old, and it will be out there forever. So these are very good skills to learn. And but my only comment, other than the benefits of this kind of thing, is just, you know, how our world is changing, and you don't know, you know, should we keep up? You have to keep up. Of course you have to keep up. You don't want our students to be behind the 8 ball, and you don't want them to be vulnerable. But on the other hand, it's moving very fast. But good job tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing your expertise to us. Thank you, Jim, for filling in. And we appreciate all your time and effort.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
You leaving?
Okay, let's see. All right. This is visitor speaking time. Time is provided within the agenda for residents to bring concerns and comments to the board. Comments should not be related to any particular individual or to the specifics of negotiations, since it is not proper for the board to discuss these issues in public session. A request to speak comment form must be filled out prior to the start of the citizens' comment period and given to the district clerk. It is expected that speakers will limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time spent on the citizens' comment period based on the length of the agenda. Written communication to the Board of Education is encouraged as well. And we have a visitor tonight? All right. Mr. Maurer, if you'd like to come forward and thank you, John.
How you doing this evening?
Thank you.
Not quite used to speaking in front of so many people.
Well, that's all right. If you could just state your name and your address, please.
Adam Marr, residing on 1690 Qualtrough Road, just in Penfield. I'm just bringing up, as a concerned parent, some of the changes that have happened at the Penfield High School recently. And I'd been in contact with New York State's Education Department just to ask questions, because I don't understand what's going on. But recently, my kid had been coming home stressed probably since the second week or third week of December, might be the third week of December, when she was sitting in the restroom, all girls restroom, and boys were coming in. And she was not aware that a few of the multi-occupancy women's rooms or girls' rooms, restrooms here at the high school, had been changed to all gender, allowing not only girls but boys and transgender and handicapped. And the issue is more surrounding the fact that it's all gender to let boys go in. When I spoke with New York State, they were very confused as to why a multi-stall restroom had been converted instead of a single occupancy. So I am here as a voice for my daughter who's going through times where she comes home and is bursting, and we're concerned that she's going to have medical issues because there's been times she goes in to use the restroom and she can't because there's boys going in or she hears male voices coming out of there. I'm also concerned as an adult and a father that as there are public people that walk through the school, and granted there's security and everything, that I would never use a restroom like this, but what's to stop other people, other males, adults, that aren't students from using these restrooms? I'm very concerned about my daughter's safety as I feel that it opens any girl, any woman, up to potential prey as a victim for something happening in these restrooms. Very, very concerned. And what I don't understand is how these changes came to be about, and there was no notification to the parents, to the students, and it's just creating a lot of stress.
So during the board meetings, we listened to your concerns. Dr. Putnam,
Yeah.
if you have any.
What I know you and I met right around that time in December, near the end of December, and talked through the concerns that you had. What I recommend is that, especially as you're mentioning again, your daughter's struggling a bit, is that we set up another meeting this time at the high school so we can have a deeper conversation with your daughter present and the team in terms of to support her. The high school all last year as well had an all gender bathroom. It was closer to the auditorium.
But it was single occupancy, not.
Nope. It was a women's room right by the auditorium.
Okay.
And one of the concerns with a large group of students that came forward was that was too far to go for students who are requesting an all-gender bathroom. We don't have at the high school a number of single-stall bathrooms. That is one of the issues of a large traditional high school, that it's most of our bathrooms are not single-stall. And so we worked with, I know the high school worked with students in terms of trying to locate places. One of the places was to make sure that after hours, the areas where those restrooms are locked down. So they're in the certain areas of the high school that are locked with the brown doors as you walk around, so they're not accessible after hours by adults. But it's something that obviously I want to continue to have a conversation with you, and especially for your daughter. There's 8 women's rooms, women-only restrooms throughout the school, and so I know there was a lot of work too in terms of placing them in spots that they weren't the only restroom around. So there's restrooms very close by that are for women and men only, and so we can talk a little bit about that too.
Okay. I mean, she's very, very frustrated about it, which is the only reason I'm here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. Yeah. And just to create inequality by creating another inequality seems like there's got to be a better solution to make everyone, help everyone out. Look at me, I'm disabled. I mean, there are things that can be done right and there are things that can be done wrong. We want to do things the right way, and that's all that I'm asking, is that there is a fair proceeding to do things properly, that it doesn't affect people negatively as well. Sure. And that's what it's doing for her.
And one of the pieces I love about this board is the focus on the whole student, and that means all students. And so I think it's important that we set up that meeting, so I'll reach out tomorrow morning and make sure that we get it on the schedule and we can meet over here at the high school, and I'd be happy to come over and be part of that conversation.
Terrific.
Sound good?
Terrific. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight. We appreciate taking the time.
No problem.
All right. Do we have any other speakers? Okay. We will move on then. Claire, our student rep.
So this past month at Harris Hill, kindergartners are learning how to code, as Mrs. Whitehead said, and it's a skill that I haven't even mastered yet, much less when I was in kindergarten. And also students are enjoying the new STEM club that has started in the elementary school as well. And teachers, staff, and students were recognized as caring hounds at Harris Hill's Character Education Assembly. At Cobbles and Harris Hill, the beginner concert was hosted where Suzuki and junior band and orchestra members participated. And at Indian Landing, the drama club performed the production Cinderella Outgrows the Glass Slipper and Other Fractured Fairy Tales for Friends and Family. And at Scribner, the drama club also performed Alice in Wonderland, which had a packed house. So. At Bay Trail, the robotics team 6996 won the Connect Award for community outreach and promoting FIRST, and will be continuing on to the New York State Regional Robotics Championships next weekend. And 8th graders are already meeting with their high school counselors and deciding their classes for next year. At Penfield High School, students celebrated No Name Calling Week by participating in dress-up days such as Pajama Day, Rainbow Day, and Purple Day. And 2 student representatives represented Penfield as Girls State Representatives, and GSA stuck Post-it notes with positive messages around Penfield High School to spread kindness. And also, there's like paintings around the library and around the school with portfolio students who prepared portfolios for colleges. So they're just I think there's going to be a gallery showing, and like just seeing all the hard work they did throughout high school is really cool. Yeah. And also, it's midterm week for students, so people are coming in throughout the week to take their exams.
Wow. Board members, any questions or comments for Claire? Well, one thing you said that I was thrilled to hear was that you didn't know how to do something that the kindergartners are learning. I don't feel so bad anymore.
I think I took the typing class in the middle school when I was in 6th grade, and I think it definitely helped me a lot. Yeah. Even in high school, just being able to, it's not just typing. I guess it's more of the form and also the efficiency as well. So.
When I was in school, like you, Barb, a lot of people never took the typing. It was really for people who thought they would be going into secretarial, and that was it. That was it. So now, I mean, it's pretty amazing what we've, what we're into, like it or not, right? Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, superintendent's reports.
And I will, it is midterm week, which is what Claire said.
You
so
are excused.
We fully understand. If you do leave early, you do have to get a 100 on your midterm tomorrow.
But no
rule.
pressure.
Yeah, I took my Physics C one today, and it was really difficult, so we'll see about that.
All right. We wish you the best of luck. Give it your best shot.
You go, Claire.
I have, let's see here. So I have student staff honors, very, very brief, and we'll turn it over to then Mark for our next part of our budget, which is the Program 1 budget review. But the first sort of student staff honors, the way this is in, is a little bit different. So this is in student staff honors. It's not a student staff honors, but it's something that I'm very excited about, and I think the board is. We've been talking about the Rochester Area School Health Plan becoming self-funded now for several years, and I'll turn it over to Mark, who's just got this slide and the next, to just talk a little bit about it, because it's very exciting.
Yeah, just really just one quick slide of celebration, just to remind everybody in the public that we've been working on this since really since 2014, and as of December 29th, which was the last absolute possible day that this could be done in that calendar year, the Department of Financial Services issued a certificate of authority. So just to remind the board, I know that you'll remember, because it happened fairly recently in October, at the October 10th board meeting, the board adopted a certificate of authority, or adopted a municipal cooperative agreement authorizing our participation in this new arrangement of the old health plan. We did that because DFS indicated that they were planning on issuing that certificate of authority. Based on that assurance, the board went ahead and Excelis went ahead and issued new ID cards for all of our employees, but we didn't really know it was going to happen until December 29th. So we're gratified that it did. We're moving forward. So now we start really sort of the next phase of that. So there's going to be a lot of work left to be done. but I just wanted to take a moment and celebrate. Our next initiative, the Board of Directors' next initiative, I think, is going to be sort of revamping the computer programs that we use to enroll. So we're looking at we'd like to move away from paper enrollment to an online enrollment system to get better control of our data. We're going to need that as we move forward, and so that'll be our next initiative you'll probably be hearing about. But I think it's important we just take a deep breath, celebrate, and say, good. So that's that. All right, if there are any questions, I'd be happy.
And I already used my new card, no problems. So, you know, there's no problems. It worked. They didn't ask. It was just a name change. The number stayed the same. All good.
Awesome.
Two just great kudos again for our kids is the Rotary, our local Rotary we have a good partnership with, has a yearly vocal competition. And congratulations to two high school voice students, Abby Guyon and Adriana Scalise, who were selected to continue on to the final level of the Rotary competition, which is coming up January 28th. And so hopefully, very proud of them. Hopefully we get to be a little more proud at the next board meeting when I can say we have a winner. But just the fact of going on to the finals is really amazing. The other very strong partnership we have with the Rotary is their annual oratorical competition. And congratulations to PHS juniors Nicole Page and Maggie Dow, who were selected by the Penfield Rotary to move on to the regional level of the Rotary competition. So congratulations as well to RJ Larson and Tatiana Santos, who also competed. And just as a reminder, and the board may recall, is that this used to be, this competition for the speech contest was really, we couldn't get kids to do it, and so we would really work and try to get kids to sign up, and we'd send over a couple of kids who did amazing work, but they typically moved on because we didn't have many takers. And what the high school did a few years back was that we made sure that we always had speech class, which is a semester class in the first semester, for the sole purpose that one of the activities the students do is write this speech. And then because of that, there's actually sort of a semifinals here at the high school to have to pare down to 4 or 5 students that then go over to Shadow Lake for the Rotary meeting to then present to the entire Rotary, and then they select. And these two students get connected to a Rotary member as sort of their coach, as well as their teacher who acts as their coach too, to help sort of hone their speech as they move into the final. So I'll get the date for that. I don't know if we have it yet, but it's usually really exciting because it's typically held at Brighton High School, and the kids do a great job. So congratulations for all those students who put in for that. I told you I had short updates this time, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Sansucci for our budget conversation.
Thank you. Tonight we're, as we always do, we begin with district goals. I won't restate them. We've seen them many times. Tonight's budget presentation has to do with the first of the program presentations of our budget. We've been at this for a while, so the areas in green, as you know, in our budget calendar are items we've already accomplished. So we began in October establishing this calendar. We've been working our way through it. And at the last board meeting in January, we began the first formal presentation of the budget. Tonight, we're looking at the first program component of the budget. So the special areas, staff development, special education, school counselors, nurses, school psychologists, and so on. That component of our budget is about 12%. You can see here, you can see that in this slide in terms of the relative amount in the rest of the budget. That 12% of the budget is up 2.9%, just under 3%. That is $334,000 on about a $12 million budget. If you want to look at in terms of increases, the significant increases that, well, I should say the things that are driving that increase really have to do with salaries. There's a 1.0 potential increase for non-public nurse at non-public schools. There is a 0.5 increase in school psychologists. That half of a school psychologist is already in place. I think the board's aware of that. But we but it wasn't included in the budget for last year, so it shows as an increase. And we're proposing a 0.4 increase in social work services at the high school. Right now, there's a social worker split between the high school and Cobbles. That social worker would be full-time at the high school, and we would refill behind them at the elementary school. When you look at what those budget components are, you can see here that students with disabilities is the single largest component of this budget. Staff development, school counselors, the health office, psychologists and social workers, relatively small components of that $12 million. That is the lion's share of this budget. And you can see it's going up a little bit, really driven by salaries. So if you have much more detail on this in your budget packages, but as you can see, what really drives that budget is salaries, and really the salaries of certified staff. There's relatively fewer proportionally non-certified staff. The other components of this budget aren't really what's driving that. The next component of our budget will be the second half of the program budget. So we'll have, I'm sorry, I apologize. We will have the capital budget followed by the second half of the program budget. So in between, we had tentatively scheduled a work session prior to the next board meeting. We'll be following up with you as to whether that needs to occur or not. I believe that we're going to continue, but I think we need to finalize some. We need to know where we're going first. So that's going to require a little bit of work between now and then. After that, BOCES, by March, we need to have this wrapped up with a proposed budget so that we can review and adopt at the April 17th meeting. That's the last available time for us to do that, followed by a public hearing and the vote on May 15th here at the high school from 6 to 9. So I have a further update after this. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about tax cap, but I think it's important to pause right now. Were there any questions about this component? Was there anything? You have more detail. There was more explanation of what is included in this in your package. Is there anything I could fill in?
Board members?
All right, I'd like to spend just a moment then talking about tax cap in terms of the update, because we now know what it's going to be, or at least we are almost final on that. So in terms of the components of the tax cap, some of these slides you've seen before. I'm just including them to remind you and to remind the public where we're at. So tax-based growth factor, this is a component of the formula that adjusts the formula based on the growth of bricks and mortar new construction in the district. And you can see Penfield in red. We are about the average for the county this year. That hasn't always been true. There have been years when we led the pack and years when we lagged. But at least for this year, we're about in the middle. This is the new piece of that formula. The piece we didn't know of before. We estimated that it would finish at 2%. The 2% portion of the formula, the allowable levy growth that's based on inflation, finished for last year at 2.13%. So the formula, the reason it's called the 2% tax cap, is it chooses in the math the lesser of 2% or the rate of inflation. So with inflation now exceeding 2, we're back into a situation like we were in 2012 and 13 where the cap really begins to take effect. And you can see that here. So in the early years of the tax cap, when inflation was at 3%, 3.2%, we chose 2. 2.1, we chose 2. Then as inflation fell, as the economy cooled, we used the lower actual figure. Now as things are beginning to heat up, 2.13, we'll use 2. So the intent of that, the design of that formula, the intent of the formula is that over long periods of time, it has to trail the rate of inflation. It can never exceed that. It's intended to squeeze schools slowly over time, and this is how that works. This is the mechanism for that to occur. this is the math, sort of a simplified version of the math that goes into this. So we begin with last year's levy. We adjust it for that 0.5% of tax base growth. We add in prior year pilots, increase it by 2%, take out the new year estimated pilots. Essentially what that's doing is sort of removing the growth of pilot from the calculation, so that as pilots grow, the tax cap shrinks. As pilots shrink, the tax cap, it neutralizes changes in pilots, really. We don't have big swings, so it's a modest change to us. And we did not levy at the cap last year, so we were under our cap by about $150,000. We're allowed to carry that into this year's calculation. So you do all that math. There are no exclusions for this year. So exclusions for primarily increases in ERS and TRS rates over 2% didn't happen. So for this year, our tax cap will be 2.78%, or just about $1.7 million. So in terms of a cap, we may not adopt a budget. The board can adopt a budget, I should say, that proposes a levy in excess of that, but it would require a 60% supermajority. So without, in the old-fashioned, I guess, traditional 50% plus one vote, the levy has to be under that $63,404,000. We knew that we'd estimated. This is pretty close to what we'd estimated in our goals and assumptions. So this isn't a surprise. It's just that we're, it's a step in this process. We're finalizing that estimate at 2.78. There's still some work to be done. I need to confirm pilots with the towns. That could change because as the budget for pilots change, it tweaks this formula a little bit. And it depends a great deal on capital exclusions. So exclusions for debt service, for bus purchase, and so on, sort of go on behind the scenes here. So we need to make sure and confirm those calculations. But absent changes in that, this is where we'll end up. And with that, at this point, I just wanted to remind everyone that at this point, in terms of a 2% tax cap, our history has been over the last 10 years, 1.8%. So a tax cap district, I think before there were tax caps, we've done our best to restrain the growth in that. But certainly it's, I think over time it's going to have an effect on our district as it will on many others. We'll see what that happens. The tax cap was promised to us, or was, when the tax cap was implemented, I should say, mandate relief was the other side of that. There was going to be a tax cap, but there was going to be mandate relief. We're in the 6th year of the tax cap now, and mandate relief remains sort of an illusion. So, and we see that, in fact, in this year's state budget, which we'll talk about at a future board meeting, but they're piling on additional mandates rather than reducing them. So are there any questions about, I'm sorry, about tax cap? Yes.
Lisa?
I have a quick question. The tax-based growth factor, is that like commercial growth?
It's any growth. But it's new, and so really it turns into
builds, right?
Yeah. There's not there. So new development.
Right.
For example, a new development would count. Any commercial development has a bigger impact, obviously. Right. But I think it's why you see ours tends to grow around the 0.5%, 0.4%, 0.3%, and that's the sort of organic growth in the community of new development as houses pop up. We don't see the Henrietta kind of levels of growth. I don't include in our chart Victor, but Victor's, I happened to notice when I went through this year, Victor's growth is around 2%. They're just, they're in a different dynamic than we are.
Right. I thought maybe our number would get a little higher. With, we have some development.
There's some development
compared to like 2 years ago where it was
flat, and this is a bit higher. But don't forget, it's it's a percentage of growth over the entire amount of assessed valuation in the community, which is a big number. So it takes a lot to move it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thanks, Mark.
That concludes our superintendent reports for this evening.
Okay. So, okay. All right, so we're on board business already then. Okay. Nothing for facilities. Our financial items as of, okay, sorry. The 2017-2018 property tax collection status. As of November of each year, town tax collectors have finalized their property tax collections for the school levy and remitted all funds collected to the school district and submitted all unpaid bills to the county. Attached is a status of the Penfield School District tax levy authorized by the board on August 8th, additions and cancellations to the authorized levy, and collections through November 30th, 2017. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the 2017-2018 property tax collection status, including all additions and cancellations made to the original approved levy amount?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Donations. Donations totaling $7,935 for items in the 2017-18 budget were received by the district schools as shown. From Cobbles Elementary PTA Arts and Education, $435. From Indian Landing Elementary PTO Arts and Education, $4,500. Bay Trail Middle School PTA Arts and Education, $3,000. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve an amendment totaling $7,935 to the 2017-18 budget as shown above, the amount submitted both as revenue and expenditure items, and express its gratitude to the donors for their generous support of Penfield schools?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right, policy review. Did you want to take that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. The first reading. Okay. Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
I do love policy. So there's first reading. We have, it's all first reading. We don't have any second reading and approvals tonight. First reading is, the first sort of subset is ongoing 5-year review. And we looked at, looks like 3 policies, and one of them had a regulation. There were no major changes in these. They're all pretty small changes. They are up online if people want to go and look at those. But it was really just around some language changes. But again, the heart of the policies are the same. These are all really around organizational meetings that we are required to have, the members in terms of office for board members, and appointment and duties of the claims auditor, which are all legal requirements anyway. And so we just made sure that they were aligned with law and made some small adjustments. And again, they're online, but nothing had changed at all, the heart or the real wording of the policy.
Right.
The second subsection is, again, we talked about just looking through our policies around the word ensure, and we had received some advice through the district clerk attending a conference with attorneys, and so we just went through, and all we've done in these policies, there's no change to the policy. It's really just editing the word ensure and finding a replacement. And we are going to, just as a reminder, after we get through the 7,000 series, the policy committee is going to stop looking for the word ensure and just focus on our 5-year policy review. And all of these policies will come back up again for the 5-year policy review. And then we'll just, as we go through, when we find that word ensure, we'll look to change it as well. But again, none of those change the heart at all of the policy. It's really just a terminology change in 1 or 2 places. It took way too long to talk about policies that really didn't have too much change.
Well, that's true, but that's why I wanted you to
Thank
do
you.
it, because there really is more to it than just the symbol.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, under President's remarks, the business of board candidates. It's that time of year again. The terms of Board of Education members, Mrs. Catherine Dean, Mr. Mark Elledge, and Mrs. Carol Nazara, will expire June 30th, 2018. The term of office for a board member is 3 years. Petitions may be obtained at the district office beginning on February 26, 2018. 28 signatures of qualified voters are needed on the petition, which must be filed with the clerk no later than April 16, 2018. Candidates should supply their personal biographical data and statement of qualifications and issues to the district clerk by April 9, 2018, to meet the printing deadline for the budget newsletter. The annual Monroe County School Boards Association Prospective School Board Candidate Seminar has been scheduled for Saturday, March 24, 2018, at the Doubletree Inn located at 1111 Jefferson Road. Meet the candidate night is to be determined. And then, nothing under unfinished business. Nothing under new business. I did want to just make mention that Lisa, Carol, and I are still working on our Board of Education new member handbook. We're plugging along. It is coming along, but it was outdated, so it's taking some time. So we have another meeting coming up. We did schedule it, yes, in February, so we're moving along on that.
If you need anybody to help type, I know some kindergarten and first grade students that might be able to help.
I know, it's amazing.
I've been typing, and I'm not a good speller, so.
Well, we have spell check for that, right?
That's great.
Yes, I know. Mark?
I just want to mention that this Saturday will be the Monroe County School Board
Yes,
Association's legislative breakfast. Hopefully, everybody can attend.
Yep.
This is where the representatives of the Board of Education of all the districts within the Monroe County School Board Association meet with our local state representatives. They're expecting 120 people to attend this year. It's going to be in Shadow Lake for us, which will be convenient as opposed to the hotel it's been at.
Yeah.
And it's very valuable because it allows us to sit and meet with them kind of on an informal basis, talk to them over breakfast, and then there's a panel where we can ask them questions and they can respond. But also it's important to allow us to give them material. Every time we meet with our representatives, we provide them material about topics, white papers that are relevant to the districts in our county. And they'll get things like this Act for Education. They'll get the facts and figures for the districts, which talks about all the districts in our association. And then things about specific topics, especially that will be timely in the time of the state budget. So it's a very timely event. It's very productive, and we're looking forward to it again.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. I didn't write that down, and I did want to remind everybody about that, so appreciate it. All right. No other new business, so may I have a motion and a second that the meeting be adjourned at 8:06 p.m.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you.